Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We got a few small things to talk about today with the trade deadline coming up tomorrow, as of when I'm recording this. We've had 3 smaller trades, and we also got some stuff with the All-Star game to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first trade we're going to talk about is between the Jazz and the Pistons. And this one kind of surprised me when I first saw it. It's the Jazz sending Simone to the Pistons in exchange for Kevin Knox, a second-round pick via the Wizards, and the draft rights for, I apologize because I'm going to say this name wrong, but it's Gabriel Procida. Not sure. I know I said that wrong. I'm sorry. But at first I was kind of surprised because I thought the Jazz really liked Simone Fontecchio, and then I was kind of looking at it, and when I really thought about it, it made more sense. Especially when I realized, or remembered, I guess, that Simone Fontecchio is already 28. I guess in my head, I just think of him as like one of the young guys that's on the Jazz. I was like kind of think of him as like, hey, he's like 23, 22, 24 maybe. But no, he's already 28. So no matter how much you like him on the Jazz, you know, he doesn't really fit the timeline of what they're trying to do. And now they got a pretty decent second-round pick for him from the Wizards. It's 2024 second-round pick from the Wizards, so, you know, that's going to be one of the first 5 picks of the second round, probably. Kevin Knox, who's, you know, he can stand on the basketball court and play decent when you need him to. And then you also got the draft rights to the Gabriel guy. And I looked at him a little bit. I looked at some of the footage and some of his stats overseas. Now, this one, like, whether it really matters or not is interesting. He's from Italy, or he's born in Italy. He's a 6'7" shooting guard. There's some stuff that seems like you should like about his game. He seems fairly athletic. Seems like a streaky shooter, but with, like, shooting potential. But also with these kind of guys, you never even know, like, maybe he doesn't even come over ever, and he's just, like, never even on the Jazz. Or maybe he comes over, does a little bit, and is pretty good for him. Or he comes over, plays, 15 games and is done. So you never really know with this kind of thing. They're taking a flyer on him, and I think it might be interesting, but I don't really have much to offer on that other than that. For the Pistons, though, I like this trade. Simone Fontecchio has shown that he can be a good player in the NBA. He's been pretty efficient this year. Shoots a 3-ball pretty well. And, you know, he's just overall a good player, and the Pistons could use good players. Yeah, he's shooting 45 from the field and 39% from 3. So, you know, he's a efficient player this year. The Pistons could use some shooting, and there's just another option for the Pistons to have on offense, which is not something they're very good at. So yeah, for this trade, I like it on both sides. It's, you know, you could say it's a nothing trade, and it kind of is. This is kind of the definition of a nothing trade. But we have to wait and see in what the Jazz take with that second round pick. You know, maybe that's something interesting there, and then, you know, maybe we'll look back at this trade differently, or maybe we'll completely forget this even happened. The second trade I want to talk about also involves the Detroit Pistons. They're sending Monte Morris to the Minnesota Timberwolves for, Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., right? Yeah, and a 2030 second-round pick. At first, I was kind of shocked to see Shake Milton in the trade, but in my head, I was thinking of, like, you know, in the past, Philadelphia Shake Milton. He hasn't been very good this year. Troy Brown Jr. has been shooting well, hasn't been playing much, though, for the Timberwolves. And Monte Morris has also barely played this season, but we've seen throughout his career he's been a good point guard in this league, a great backup point guard. And this gives the Timberwolves a really solid point guard to have in the game whenever Mike Conley's not in. And that's something that they didn't really have before this trade, so that's, the way I see it, that's a win for the Timberwolves. They gave up 2 players that they weren't really playing, and a second round pick in 2030. That's 6 years from now, 2024, whatever. But yeah, I see this as a good trade for the Timberwolves, and as a pretty solid trade for the Pistons. You know, if Troy Brown Jr. can keep up his good shooting, you know, shooting is something the Pistons need, and if Shake Milton can kind of get back into form, you know, he could be a solid player for the Pistons, or maybe he won't really be much of anything. But overall, I think this is a good trade for the Timberwolves, who are looking to compete this year in the playoffs. And then the last trade of these three very minor trades is Xavier Tillman going to the Boston Celtics from the Memphis Grizzlies. And he was traded for, Lamar Stevens and a pair of second-round picks. And really, this is just the Celtics trying to build their bench depth for the playoffs and, the rest of the regular season. And I think they did that. I think they did pretty good with this trade. You could look at Xavier Tillman this season and be like, man, he's like a really inefficient player. Why would the Celtics want him? But that's because he's been on a Grizzlies team where he's been asked to do more than he's capable of because of, everyone who's been injured and out of the lineup. If you look at his career, historically, he's been a pretty efficient scorer. He's not a scorer, like, per se. You're not giving Xavier Tillman the ball and like, hey, go get me a bucket. But, he can score in the flow of the offense. He's been pretty efficient throughout his career, other than this season. And going to the Celtics, I assume that efficiency will go back up to around where it used to be before this season started. And he's also been a good defender throughout his career. This season, you would say, he probably hasn't been great, but it's really hard to be a good defender on a bad team. So being on the Celtics, I assume we'll see an uptick in his defense and in his efficiency. And I think overall, it's a good move for the Celtics. They give up Lamar Stevens, who's like not even playing at all for them. And, he'll either get a chance with the Grizzlies or he'll just, not. But maybe he'll get a chance with the Grizzlies, and that could be good for his career. We'll just have to wait and see about that. But the real, thing we're interested in this trade is the Celtics. And I think they did a good job building their front court depth with this trade. And just looking at it a little bit more, so the second round picks that they got will be 2027 from the Hawks and 2030 from the Mavericks. So, 2 second round picks that are kind of far in the future. So yeah, I don't think the Celtics really gave up much to get Xavier Tillman. And, he's not a player that's going to make like a huge difference, but, I think he'll add to their defensive versatility in certain situations. And, he's not going to hurt them on offense. I think playing with good players, he'll be a solid player to have out there on the offensive side of the court as well. Now, we still got time with the trade deadline going on. It doesn't end until, tomorrow, from my perspective at least. Hopefully I can get this out soon. But there still could be a lot of moves that we, are in the wings waiting to happen. We'll just have to wait and see. If there are any big moves, I'll probably be back covering them. But now that we got that out of the way, let's move a little bit on to the All-Star stuff. So we saw that the injury replacements for Julius Randle and Joel Embiid will be Trae Young and Scotty Barnes. And that's probably what everyone expected. Definitely at least Trae Young. I was 100% certain Trae Young would be the first injury replacement. And then the second one I thought would probably be Scotty Barnes. But, there was a chance for a few other guys. A third Celtic could have slid in there, or maybe a Jarrett Allen. But I think Scotty Barnes was probably the right decision. He's having a great season. And yeah, I think you should reward that. He's been really good all season, and I'm happy to see him get his first All-Star appearance, But yeah, that's all I really had for you guys today. I just had a lot of energy from the trade deadline. I needed to get it out. Keep you guys updated in the loop. Give you my thoughts about the trades that have happened. And make sure you share your thoughts too. Leave them in the comments below. If you liked the video, maybe leave it a like, subscribe. It really helps me out. And I appreciate all of you guys who are already subscribed. That means a lot to me. But yeah, good talking to you guys. I'll see you later. Peace.